From Charville, Granny's Revenge.
As we've seen with previous entries like Ruff Dougal and Millie Anbug, not all robots on this list are going to be semi-finalists with terrifying weapons or exceptional drivers. Robot Wars was also a show about entertainment, and if there's one robot who put all their eggs in that basket, it's Granny's Revenge. Little more than a mannequin in a wheelchair, Granny's Revenge was able to qualify for Series 5 on novelty alone, and was selected for Series 6 over future champion Typhoon 2, who was in the same qualifier battle. Yes, really. Though Granny only had 2 fights, both are well loved by the fan community, whether Granny was doused in flames by Sergeant Bash from across the arena or almost hurled out of the arena itself by Barbarous 2. Being the successor to Purple Predator was hardly an inspiring start, but to add to her uncompetitive nature, Granny's Revenge was barely heavier than a middleweight at just 60 kilograms, and she was the closest thing Refbob had to a partner. What a dreadful thought, especially considering that she tried to make that a reality. Granny's Revenge was a symbol of the time when people built heavyweights just for a laugh, when being strategic and cynical wasn't the only way to be, and going out in a blaze of glory was a good day's work.
Go on, you're going to miss the pension down the post office, love. Got to be out of the arena quickly. Oh, who's got in there with her? The ref bot's got in. Granny's got hold of the ref bot. What a dreadful thought.
From Central London, Rapid.
Rapid, the creation of Josh Rauman, founder of RPD International, immediately stands out among the top tier of British flippers. Favouring a short, low look to the usual long and tall, this would prove but one of the ways Rapid would distinguish itself in Robot Wars. Suffering a rocky start to its career, with just a few blows from Aftershock causing an early end to its Series 9 campaign, Rapid more than redeemed itself in Series 10, showing off one of the most impressive flippers ever seen in the show, and even setting the record for the shortest battle in history against Traction, for a stunning heat final where it barely even needed its weapon. Not many robots could make Terahertz, a 2-time live scene champ driven by a near 20-year veteran of robot combat in John Reed, look helpless while barely firing a flipping anger, but that's exactly what Rapid did. Rapid's grand final was something of a farce, with some truly shocking self-writing fails and an ugly match with Carbide putting an end to their campaign, and Rapid left the arena in flames, with Josh looking on smiling the smile of a man who could probably build another robot with just his pocket change. While its time to show was brief, Rapid showed itself to be a serious contender, and if the series ever returns, they could be a real candidate for the title.
They tried to get the dial of doom working there, they missed. Oh, out they go at last!
From Kettering in Northamptonshire, Anarchy.
A common question you hear in this fandom is, what was the best robot that never won a heat? Answers like Smithy or Supernova are usually the first to be brought up, but even one-time robots are given a fair shout, such as IG-88, or of course our number 68, Anarchy. A huge upgrade from its simplistic predecessor 101, Anarchy caught attention from just about everyone for many reasons, but mainly because it was a walker, a type of robot which at this point was dismissed as either a gimmick, a joke, or both. Anarchy alone made this type of robot viable and competitive, and it did it in style. With twice the weight of an average robot, it boasted surprisingly good speed and a flipper and axe that could contest with Chaos 2 and Dominator 2. Anarchy competed in the Sick Force and demonstrated its weaponry well against the likes of Revolution 2, Judge Dredd 2.5, and even Shreddable on its path to the Heat Final. Unfortunately, it faced a nasty draw against the eventual champion Tornado and lost in one of the saddest early exits in the show. Yet even with just 3 battles, Anarchy remains wildly popular to this day and was no doubt one of the most innovative robots in Robot Wars.
Reached the series semi-final in Robot Wars 3 actually. Lost to Hypnodisc with his machine 101, which cost £1 and a penny to build. Oh, he's invested more time and I would say cash in Anarchy with weaponry like that.
From Cambridge, Disco Inferno.
Burn, baby, burn, as the song goes. Disco Inferno was a machine whose Robot Wars career took a false start or two to flicker properly, but when it was in form, this machine was certainly red hot. Visually, Disco Inferno was hardly a fire starter, just a polycarbonate box with a spinner hanging out the front. And in its debut campaign, it did little to give people food for thought, as it quite remarkably managed to lose to Major Tom, Shadow of Napalm, and Sir Chromlot, all by KO inside the same series. Yeah, if this was going to be Disco Inferno's form line, then it would be more likely to have been scrapping it out with the likes of Devastator and Mayhem for a spot on this list, but thankfully, it didn't. The Disco Inferno boys went away and came back with a different beast altogether for Extreme, and this time it actually worked! Hypnodisc may well have hogged the headlines for the Mayhem destruction in Extreme, but Disco Inferno's road to redemption was hardly one to be snuffed at either, as it slashed its way through Come and Get It and Velociripper. And if that was the teaser, then Disco Inferno was about to provide the main course of its career, as it went on a 6-battle winning streak which saw it force Panic Attack to withdraw en route to Annihilator victory, before immobilising every single one of its Round 1 opponents in Series 6. If there was one thing Disco Inferno had over Hypnodisc, it was its remarkable performance against Behemoth, immobilising it and even ripping away its entire front scoop, something which only Carbide could also claim to have done. Unfortunately for Disco Inferno, the moment it went over the flame jet against Killer Carrot in the next round also seemed to be the moment where its Robot Wars career was extinguished, with a subsequent heat final defeat against Bigger Brother seeing its spinner fail to work, for an immediate pitting by Tough as Nails, putting paid to any potential hopes of Disco Inferno proving itself as the big horizontal spinner in Series 7, with Hypnodisc no longer in the business. Disco Inferno's poor start, end, and lack of appearance in Series 5 did put a limit on the potential that this machine had. But at its best, Disco Inferno was capable of putting in displays that even Hypnodisc would have been proud of. And for how its Robot Wars life started, that is some achievement, and grants Disco Inferno rightful access to this top 100.
Oh! Slice and dice time! Backing away to come crunching forward on another assault! Look at that! It really is dishevelled! And bent and buckled and almost ripped clean off there!
From Lowham in Somerset, Iron Ore.
Up next is a machine credited by Robot Wars itself as the father of the flipper. So who would that be? Cassius? Chaos 2? Facet? No, of course not! It's Iron Ore! Apparently. Gilbert Grimm's Yellow Container made its debut in Series 4 as a pure axe bot and became notable as the first robot to self-right using an axe weapon, but was otherwise fodder for superior opposition. After a brief departure in Series 5 with Axor, where the team were on the receiving end of the biggest flip in Robot Wars history, Iron Ore 2 laid the groundwork for the future in their next appearance, sporting a combination of the signature axe and powerful flipper weapon, even if it was thrown out of the arena yet another 2 times. With 3 defeats in this manner, Gilbert Grimm was sensing a pattern. But if you can't beat them, join them. All of the team's bad luck suddenly reversed in Series 7 when Iron Ore 2.1 threw the number 4 seed Bigger Brother out of the arena in one of the series' largest upsets. Now Iron Ore was not remembered for its axe or its flights over the arena wall, but for its own grinning CO2 flipper. By adopting a more traditional wedge design, Iron Ore became one of the most successful competitors in the country, and went through multiple revisions, with Iron Ore 5 becoming a UK champion on 2 occasions. This success led fans to clamour for Iron Ore's return in the reboot of Robot Wars, but the Grimms would not earn a space on the show for Series 8 or 9, ironically due to an excess of the very design that they had founded. An experimental set of entanglement cannons was enough to put Iron Ore 6 into Series 10, but sadly this left a lot of fans wishing Iron Ore had not returned at all. Across 4 whole fights, Iron Ore 6 could not fire its flipper a single time, fighting the entire competition as but a simple wedge, and not a particularly fast or well driven one at that. Its return to Robot Wars was far from Iron Ore's finest moment, but with Iron Ore 6 now the 2019 UK champion, the team are back at the top of the game, leaving you to wonder what could have been.
That's what Robot Wars is all about. Stack 'em and pack 'em, rack 'em and flip 'em, and Bigger Brother are out! The seeds have gone! Oh no! Ellie's almost in tears!
From London, Fluffy.
An exciting prospect from the very beginning, Fluffy made its debut in the first series of Extreme, ultimately failing to make an impact in its one fight. It would only be with the advent of Series 5 that Fluffy was fully unleashed onto the world. With 2 devastating victories against the Robot Wars icons 101 and Terahertz, Fluffy's Series 5 run frustratingly ended in misfortune at the hands of the Shaken Pussycat, whose blade had been shattered by a hit from Fluffy's own spinner. It was this run that solidified Fluffy's status in the world of Robot Wars, positioning it as a prodigious robot with a design that was ahead of its time. Unfortunately, Fluffy never truly lived up to its potential. Most notably, it had frequent reliability issues, the Achilles heel which was seen as early as that one Mayhem fight in Extreme. For every display of incredible raw power against 259 or Can Opener, we would also be left with moments of weakness and frailty from Fluffy. But to focus on this alone is to do a disservice to Fluffy. In an era where destructive spinners were a rarity in Robot Wars, Fluffy provided a new blueprint. Echoes of its design were seen almost 15 years later when Carbide made a splash in 2016 in the first series of the reboot, with a design that would ensure that a spinner could quickly adapt to being flipped while still retaining its ability to hit another robot. It's easy to see why Fluffy's design philosophy had the impact it did. Builders of such robots may not name Fluffy as their outright ancestor, but Fluffy showed that it had a great idea, and its failures would only challenge others further to build upon the great foundations it helped to set.
259s and all sorts of bother here. It was the extreme strength of Fluffy's onslaught. And another massive attack has sent 259 toppling. What ease! They simply thrust 259 aside. You are talking 100 kilos there being flicked almost effortlessly. Look at that, they turn and bang! The impact of the weaponry, enormous from Fluffy.
From West Bromwich, Birmingham, Can Opener.
In the sea of Robot Wars competitors, there was one which many refer to as the hammerhead shark of a robot. And just as sharks evolved to become the perfect killing machine in the Earth's oceans, so Can Opener became the perfect killing machine in the Annihilators. Despite never escaping the first round in 4 wars, Can Opener won back-to-back Annihilators in Extreme Series 7, playing a pivotal role in the defeat of several high-caliber robots. Those defeated by it included series semi-finalists like Thermidor 2 and Raging Nightmare, Future Line Circuit legends Ripper, and Series 7 champion Typhoon 2, just to name a few of the vanquished. So why was Can Opener so successful in Annihilators, yet performed so badly in the main competition? Team member Andy Kane believed it was because the Annihilator was more about survival rather than going all out on the offensive, yet Can Opener was always an aggressive machine. Perhaps it's down to its unique design, which changed very little over the years. Very few robots have results as polarising as Can Openers, but what it achieved was no fluke. It proved it could tangle with top-class robots. Even in Series 8, before Apollo's massive flip conked it out, Can Opener was performing well against PP3D, a robot which beat Eruption and Damage Storm 2 in that very same series. Its main series record is a poor reflection on a robot which was actually one of the more successful and capable robots of the classic series. And I'm sure if there had been a 2004 series, Can Opener would finally have had some luck and swum into the deeper rounds of a main series.
Punctured tyre, ripped, and now in the claws of Can Opener. They are still just about moving. There you can see the wheel spinning, but Thermidor 2, no need for the ref bot to come in now. They're still alive and they'll go to the judges, I think. What a worthy final for the Annihilator. Will they go to the judges? No! Right at the death there, pitted! Can Opener, the Annihilator champions. Thermidor couldn't quite hold on. Oh, we had such fun. Now we have just the one. Can Opener.
From Swansea, Morgue.
At number 63 on the list is Mega Morgue, or simply The Morgue, or Mini Morgue, or Mega Morgue again. Mini Mega The Morgue clocks into the top 100 as one of the fun novelty machines of Robot Wars past that amassed a surprising amount of success in Series 4 through very little effort of its own. After outright losing their opening round, the Welsh team benefited from reinstatement, opponent breakdowns, and Firestorm 2 driving into the pit to nearly give the Morgue an unlikely heat victory. The judges ultimately favoured the seeded machine that day, but the happy-go-lucky team and their ninja sheep made real characters of themselves in Extreme, with repeated appearances that usually resulted in failure, but were always amusing nonetheless. Apart from the singing, they weren't very good singers. Although the team found no great success in their remaining appearances, they stuck in the minds of fans through silly rivalries with the Plunderbird and Ming teams, constantly getting in the way of teammates Dietor and Exterminator, its distinctively bright colour scheme, stereotypical Welsh jokes, and landing themselves the greatest toy in the Minibot range. A totally unbiased opinion, of course, but the flipper could ooze the other toys. What more could you want? The only real question is, who's more iconic? The Morgue, Mini-Morgue, or Mega-Morgue?
It's a curious look sort of weapon, isn't it? Not really effective, and I think Bash is Bordeaux! Burnt sheep!
From Haren in the Netherlands, tough as nails.
Not all robots were created with the same tactics in mind. Roadblock overturned opponents in positions from which they could not recover. Razor punctured robots to reach their sensitive internals, and by Series 7 we had no shortage of robots designed to flip robots out of the arena. Tough as Nails, on the other hand, was designed to make best use of the Great Equalizer, the Pit of Oblivion. Nothing more than a huge horizontal crusher on a single axle, Tough as Nails was big enough to wrap around most robots with ease, yet strong enough to push them in the direction it wanted, which was inevitably the pit. There are very few robot combat debuts as decisive as that of Tough as Nails, dropping former Annihilator champion Disco Inferno into the pit within seconds of the battle starting. Tough as Nails went on to steamroll its heat, and whilst it could not push Panic Attack into the pit, the round 2 victory over the former champion signalled a passing of the torch, as Panic Attack was the most famous pick tactic robot in the show at that point. Tough as Nails was a welcome breath of fresh air in a series dominated by flippers, though it would ultimately be undone by one in the series semi-finals. Tough as Nails also flew the Dutch flag in the 3rd World Championship, a decisive display that saw it earn vengeance over Scraptosaur and outclassed the favoured Gravity in a single battle. Though it would fall short of the title at the hands of Storm 2, Tough as Nails secured the Netherlands' best performance across 3 World Championships. Though Tough as Nails was unable to overcome Thor on either of its 2 reboot fights, its tactics defeated by the slippery floor and Thor's awkward shape, its reputation remains untarnished, and there are many who wonder what might have been.
They want to activate the pit, the Dutch team, then grab and dump Robo Chicken running away behind the ref bot. And we can see the first grab. Tough as Nails has Disco Inferno towards the pit. Just surviving. No, they've gone. Very, very good tactics by Tough as Nails.
From Addleston in Surrey, Cat 3.
Cat 3 was the Caterpillar team's attempt to step it up from their underperforming Series 4 machine. They traded in their tracks and lifter for go-kart wheels and a pneumatic axe, and boxed it up in a tiger-striped chassis. First appearing in Series 5, their aggression and a douse of luck got them into the heat final, but Panic Attack laid bare their weaknesses, structural damage just for being lifted, and their axe wasn't strong enough to give Panic Attack even a moment of hesitation. Coming back for Series 6, Cat 3 had a much more streamlined design, and a shape that theoretically could self-right. But proving not all cats land on their feet, it had trouble doing so in both of its battles. Finally, in Extreme 2, they started to hit their stride, showing they could self-right and hit hard enough to KO another robot. And they only got better in Series 7, now with an axe that could pierce a decently thick hull and a ground clearance nearly untouchable. And while they may have lost in the heat final, to a dog of all things, they did get there on a much more dominant run than ever, and make the judges think hard before handing them a loss. Despite their losses, they ended up on a high note, turning the All-Stars tournament into an impromptu house robot rebellion, and showing just how deep their axe could pierce. Cat 3 is a robot you could spot from a mile away, and the same goes for the team, who rocked out the kitty cat ears and tiger trousers, and even picked up a sportsmanship award. Cat 3 had a constant presence in Robot Wars, even making some appearance in the American versions. When you think of a deadly Axebot, you might not think of Cat 3, but their consistency and bright, bold color scheme made them an unforgettable part of Robot Wars history.
Little Ellie Watts, only 8, she doesn't know. There's her Bigger Brother machine. Oh, the truce is obviously off. Cat 3 has spiked Bigger Brother, and at last, the competing machines are having a go at each other.